My motorcycle is basically a paperwork. I thought you took it to a shop. No.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank everybody coming in live, everybody watching on the web, everybody watching on the replay. Thank you, guys. Hey, guys, do me a favor. If you know me, go ahead and share this out. This is going to be a great training for authors, speakers, consultants, entrepreneurs, but this is specifically for those of us that are authors and speakers, and I think everybody should be an author and a speaker. So if you don't consider yourself a speaker or don't consider yourself an author, I want you to start considering yourself and really I am in Arizona, my man. So give everybody a little time to get in here. If you're brand new to the Genius Zone, go ahead and type Genius so I can welcome you, let you know who I am. For those of you who always show up, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing this message out. Reginald, Cameron. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Will. I talk about 4 things here on this scope. We talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, action, and development. I call it the lead principle. I'm passionate about leadership. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. And then here on my scope, I try to teach you the right actions you need to take. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So development is a key part of your success. So we call that the lead principle. And that's what we do here in the Genius Zone. So thank you for joining. If someone invited you, thank you for accepting that invite. For those of you who have shared, thank you. This is going to be value added. So I'm not going to waste your time. I want to get right into the training, but I do want to keep it short. So I'm going to give you a topical training, something for you to think about for those of you who have already written books, and for those of you who are speakers, and those of you considering writing a book. I'm going to give you some wisdom of the way. To give you a little background about me, I've written and published over 40 books. I have about anywhere between 15 to 17 bestsellers to my record. We just dropped 4 books January 22nd on my birthday, which all went bestsellers on Amazon as well. So I've been in the book game for a little while. I have a book publishing company, and I help other authors and speakers get their message out there in a strategic way where it becomes profitable for them, so you don't end up with a garage full of books. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So when we talk about being a $1 million author or a $1 million speaker, I want you guys to know up front that is very difficult to do. So I don't want anyone to be fooled. I don't want anybody to think that this is a training about how to get rich quick or anything like that. To become a $1 million speaker and author, and notice I'm using them in conjunction, $1 million speaker and author. So I want you to know the two go hand in hand like two sides of a coin, heads and tails. So if you're going to become a $1 million speaker, author, this training is going to be good for you. Now, when I say it's very difficult to do, I want you to just think about something. I want you to think about just looking on the surface at the numbers. We publish all kinds of books. I want you to look at just the numbers. So if we're looking at a book just by itself, you need to sell 50,000 books at $20 a pop. 50,000 books at $20 a pop. That gets you $1 million. Very few authors sell 50,000 books. If we're talking about speaking, you would have to speak 200 times and receive $5,000 a pop every time you spoke for you to be $1 million speaker. So to speak 200 times out of the 366 days of the year, that's very difficult to do. Very few speakers do that. So if you take your average up to $10,000, that's 100 talks that you need to do in a year. Still, very few speakers are doing that. Now, if you combine these efforts of speaking and writing a book, it's very doable, but you have to have a strategy. The strategy I'm going to share with you today. Now, let me get you in the right frame of mind as we go forward. Most people who author books are not writers. I need you to understand that. Most authors that write books are not writers. And so I don't want you to forget that. You're not a writer, meaning writing is not your profession. So a book, right? A book then becomes a product for you. And I want you to think about your book as a product. Like everything else that you sell, a book is a product. And every product that you have needs to have a strategy, needs to have some goals attached to it, and how you're going to be profitable by it. Okay, so I want us to understand that. Give me a thumbs up, give me a 1, type the number 1 if you're understanding what I'm saying. So I want to make sure you guys are flowing with me. So if you're going to author a book, I need you to understand that a book is just a product. And it needs a system like everything else, all right? It needs a system like everything else. When you're a speaker, your signature talk, right? Your signature talk is a product, Your signature talk is a product. And I want you to think about it as a product. When you think about it as a product, what does this mean to us? That means my book and my talk need to have a marketing plan, right? It needs to have a marketing strategy. I need to have some tangible outcomes that I want to happen. So with that being said, let me kind of take you through this process of when you write a book and what you should be thinking about. When you write a book, just like I said in the beginning, unless you're positioned to sell 50,000 books, most authors aren't going to make a lot of money. So how do authors and speakers then make a lot of money? How do you get to the $1 million figure? All right. How do you get to the $1 million figure? The way you get to the $1 million figure is thinking about your book and your keynote like a product, right? So one of the things that I suggest with my authors is that they always write a signature book, right? So this was one of my signature books right here. This was one of my signature books, Genius Potential. So if you follow me, just like here on the Periscope, I call this my Genius Zone. Hey, Walida, how are you? I call this the Genius Zone. So this is my signature book. It has my philosophy. It has a lot of my thoughts in there, right? But not only is this my signature book, it's one of my signature live events, okay? So we have the Live Your Life Like a Genius event that goes along with this. So I want you to begin to think of your book as your introductory product into the market. Think about your book as your introductory to the market. Yep, it's on Amazon, it's on my website, it's everywhere. So I want you to think about your book as your introductory into the market. This is just level 1. I want you to think of your book as level 1. That's all this is. It's just level 1. This is not the thing that's going to get you rich, okay? This is not the thing that's going to get you rich. The book is not going to get you rich. This is just level 1. This is just to introduce people to your concept, right? That's all it is. What I call this is a tool in your toolbox so you can begin to build your platform, so you can begin to build your community. That's all this is. It's just a tool in the toolbox to help you, right? Now, the way I do my books and the way we do all of our books are always connected to several other things. So what do I mean by that? When I write a book, I already know that we're going to write the book. It's going to be a signature keynote with the book. Not only is it going to be a signature keynote, it's going to be a live event. It's going to be a coaching program. It's going to have an online coaching component. So for for Genius Potential, what's going on, Clark? For Genius Potential, we have all of these entities under the Genius brand. We have the live event, we have the keynote, right? We have the online class, and then we have connected to that, we have my one-on-one coaching. Okay, we have my one-on-one coaching. And so all of these are connected. All of these are interconnected. And so that's how I want you to start thinking about your book. All of it has to be interconnected. To give you an example, think about your cell phone, right? Think about your cell phone, and then think about your tablet, and then think about your laptop. Usually for most people, if they have a Samsung, they're going to get a Samsung tablet. They're going to, get the equivalent laptop. If you're an iPhone person, you're going to have the iPhone. You're going to have the iPad. You're going to have a Mac, right? For most people, that's how you want to start thinking about your book. If a person has a book, they want to come to your live event. If they come to your live event, they want to be a part of your coaching program. If they're part of your coaching program, they want to be a part of your community. If they're part of your community, you see how that starts to tie in? So with all you're doing with your book, I want you to start thinking in this dimension, because this is where the money comes. The money comes in from the live event. The money comes in from the coaching. The money comes in from the online training, not so much from the book itself. The book is just the honey that attracts the bee. The book is just the honey that attracts the bee. So I don't want you to forget that. A lot of authors, where they mess up is they're thinking the book is going to be the thing that gets them. They think the book is going to be the thing that gets them, and it's not. And so that's why a lot of authors are disappointed when, after they sell their first 100 books to their family and their friends, they don't sell any more books. It's because their book wasn't attached to anything else. It wasn't attached to a movement. So when I'm looking and working with my clients, I'm asking them, what is the plan? What is the idea? So let me give you another one. When I started working with a lot of colleges and a lot of sports organizations, I asked them what was one of the issues, what was one of the problems that they were having. And a lot of the coaches began to tell me a lot of the younger kids and a lot of the younger athletes didn't have the drive. They didn't have the will. So what we did was we created the Will to Win, right? So here's another one of my books, The Will to Win, but this is connected to a program that I teach to colleges and sports teams all around the United States, The Will to Win. So notice, it's not a fancy title or anything like that. It's all about getting into an environment that wants to pay you for the information, right? And so it's the will to win. And so when I go to colleges, this book is connected to the keynote, the will to win. So not only am I getting paid, notice this, not only am I getting paid my fee to come and speak, but they're buying the book, right? They're buying the book. And we created an ongoing program for these universities, for the colleges to keep paying for the program. So I hope that's making sense. I'll give you another example. Leadership Excellence is another book that I did for corporate America, right? For CEOs, for them to have a daily reminder of what leadership excellence looks like. Once again, this is connected to a keynote, Leadership Excellence. It's also connected to a training program for Fortune 500 companies, how to produce excellent leaders. So not only am I getting paid for the book, not only am I getting paid for the keynote, I'm also getting paid for the training. You see that? You see how that rolls in? The book is what attracts them. You know, best-selling author Dr. Will Moreland, he wrote the book on leadership excellence, right? That's just what attracts people. That's just what attracts people. But at the end of the day, it's what you have attached to this that's going to add the most value. Let me give you another example. Copycat Millionaire is a book I wrote for the finance industry. So I partnered with a lot of financial institutions that talk about finance and talk about wealth building, and I wrote the book for them, right? Copycat Millionaire, 21 Traits to Becoming a Millionaire. The book should always be attached to a keynote because you want to remember, it's like having the iPhone, the Mac, the iPad, the iPod. You want people to always have several different ways to pay you for the same message. Here's another one that we use for the finance industry, Wisdom for Your Finances. So whenever I want to break into an industry, I just write a book for them. We have an online program that's called Better You Coaching, right? Personal development. So we wrote this book, Let This Mind Be in You, quotes and insights to help you keep a positive mind. So everything that I do, it's always connected to 3 to 4 different entities. Now, let me tell you something else I do. For me, I don't worry about, like, if you go on my website right now, you're not going to see all of these books on my website because we don't promote all of the books in a one-to-one manner, right? I don't promote them in a one-to-one manner trying to get one-to-one sales. I do a lot of my sales via bulk, right? So a company hires me and we sell them a bulk of books because I'm not into really the one-to-one. Remember, I'm not a writer, right? I'm not writing for a living. I'm an entrepreneur. So at the end of the day, I'm about collecting a revenue, right, for my books. And so we do a lot of bulk orders to the organizations that we work with. Another thing that you can do you have a huge interest in the subject before you start to write them? I'll tell you this. I do only write about subjects, that I'm passionate about. So I write about finance. I write about leadership. I write about personal development. I don't go out of my RAM. So, but to be honest with you, I have some clients that, because we figured out the system and they know what the market wants. I have one client who does romance books, and he's not particularly a romance guy. He just knows that there's a particular market that's going to buy those type of books. And so he markets this to them. He has a seminar, for them. He does a lot of relationship stuff. He does a lot of relationship coaching. So, that's the platform we created for him. So when you're doing a book, you want to think about it, as someone wrote it earlier, you want to think about it as a movement, especially if it's your first book. You want to think about it as a movement. If you've already written your book and you can't convert it into like a one-day seminar or a coaching program, you may want to write another book and consider that book your signature book. And you want to think about, how will this book title look on a t-shirt? How is it going to look on a mug? How is it going to look on a hat? How is it going to look on a wristband? For those of you who follow me, we have the wristbands, the Live Genius wristbands. We have the Live Genius t-shirts. So how is the thought and how is the movement going to look on other paraphernalia, right? So we have t-shirt sales, we have wristband sales, we have hats, all that type of stuff goes into the funnel of you becoming a $1 million speaker author. And so I just wanted to share with you guys today, I don't want you to think that you're going to just become this $1 million author or this $1 million speaker in and of itself by just speaking or authoring a book, all right? It's a whole lot that goes into it. It's just not you just having a book. Even people that you see New York Times bestsellers and all of that type of stuff, usually for them, they've gotten a royalty check or an upfront check of maybe $100,000, $250,000, and then they make a penny on every book sold or 10 cents on every book sold. So it's not, they don't even make $1 million off of the millions of books they probably sell. How do you become a New York Times bestseller? So each bestseller list has its own criteria. The New York Times, Amazon, Wall Street Journal, everybody has their own criteria. So to become a New York Times bestseller, what has to happen is you have to determine where you're going to do your launch, each city. So give you an example. If you do it in Dallas, if you do it in New York, if you do it in Los Angeles, if you do it in Orlando, each of them have a particular number that you need to sell in a particular weekend for you to reach the New York Times list. And so they compile that number over the weekend. So all the books that's been sold on Amazon, all the books that's been sold on Barnes and Nobles over this period of a weekend. And if the numbers, and it can switch, it changes, every week, every, month, the number changes of what you actually need. So what has to happen is you have to get a concentrated effort of all your people. And a lot of people who do it, what happens is they get a lot of affiliates to join in with them. And so you'll start seeing what we call, they'll go on a book campaign and they'll start talking about their book and they'll start pushing it to a particular date. And that date is usually a Friday, Thursday release date. And if you get a lot of people to buy your book on that day, then you can potentially become a New York Times bestseller. Hey, Irma, how are you? And that's how that one works. The same similar thing on Amazon. You just want to have a particular sales on a particular day. It's not a particular number per se. It's not like 1,000. It's not like 10,000. It just depends on that day when you release your book, if you're in the top. So when we did our book release on January 22nd, we had 14,000 downloads of the book, and that was able to get all the books on the bestseller list. And that's how we did that one. And so becoming a Amazon bestseller is a little bit easier than New York Times. New York Times takes a little bit more strategy, a little bit more effort, but it's definitely doable. It's just having the partners in place and really having a strategic plan in place to make it happen. So all of this, guys, none of this is happening in a vacuum. Anything that you want to accomplish, you need to have a strategy behind it. No one is just writing a book and they happen to luckily end up on the New York Times. That rarely happens. It may happen, for instance, Oprah is walking through the airport and she just happens, to run into somebody and they say, here, I would love for you to read this book. And she reads it and goes on one of her platforms and says, oh my God, everybody go buy this book. But that's rarely happens. The way it actually happens is you have to have a strategic plan. So when Tony Robbins, I was a part of the Tony Robbins launch. I was a part of the Ariana Huffington launch. I was a part of the Gary Vee launch. So a lot of these big people that you see, they'll reach out to people who have influence, and then, we'll go and we'll talk about the strategy about how to get them on the New York Times bestseller list. And that's how that works out. So guys, I just want you to give you a couple of ideas about how to rethink how you're thinking your book and your speaking strategy. Okay, awesome. St. Bart's. Okay. Awesome. So we do this. If you're interested in talking about this further, you can go to realteamgenius.com, look under the coaching tab and look under the Ultimate Authors Mastermind. That's where we work with authors, and for those who want to work with us, we can strategize a plan for you and get you to where you want to be. So realteamgenius.com, under the coaching tab, look under the Ultimate Authors Mastermind, check the information out there, and you'll see what we do. So I hope it has been helpful, guys. Just want to share that with you. Catch up with you a little bit later.